Great.
Oh, I was talking about YouTube.
Oh, I have the restream going live right now.
Okay.
But Instagram, Instagram I'm starting too.
I'm starting Instagram right now.
All right, we're live on Instagram.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Welcome, everyone.
Where did my other window go? There we go.
You can see you on Instagram too.
So it didn't post the last one on mine.
Oh, it's definitely live though. I just logged in with my other account. I saw you.
But it didn't say that I went live.
Oh, maybe server clicks go live first.
It could be. Let me check. I just want to try something real quick.
Okay.
I'm going to put in.
Yeah, I'll hold up the sign. So the actual discussion is going to start soon, you guys. Right now, we're trying to connect things to YouTube as well, and then like a TikTok live stream. We're using a software, so we're trying to send it everywhere right now.
Mm-hmm. We are learning as we go.
Yeah, but put your speaking points, put questions or like the controversial things in the comments, and then we can talk about them throughout the video. And ideally, if there are quotes that resonate with you, put the page number as well, so we can kind of do it in chronological order, you know?
So edit. Okay, here we go. Sorry, everybody. I feel like my anxiety gets the best of me too, and I'm like, oh my god, I don't know what to click.
I feel like having the added technology component makes it a bit harder, but once we figure it out, it'll be fine.
Yeah, you all are learning. You're like on this journey with us.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so now it should be streaming. And it says it's sending. There we go. Okay, do you want Instagram? Yeah. Perfect. Okay, now I'm streaming on Instagram. This is the second live we've done with our streaming software, and we are definitely learning as we go.
Mm-hmm. This is the first time though with other accounts hooked up besides just Instagram.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
shall we start officially? Put the cardboard sign away.
Yeah. I like to start. You know how I do like my hey. I want to start every I want to start every live with that. So, hey, everybody, today is the day. We're doing chapter 2. Is it right to reward?
Punish by reward. It's going to be a good day. It's going to be good. We're going to get into some of the more controversial things, which I know is our complete cup of tea. We are the barista at the controversial
coffee shop.
Yes.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yes. So introductions. Want to go first, Britt?
Yeah. My name is Brittany Wheaton. I am the founder of Teaching to a Riot, which is a brand that offers apparel and apparel and teaching resources.
And I am Ashlyn. I run A's for Ashlyn social media, and I am the founder of The Village, which is a membership for educators who are ready to start their conscious classroom journey. And I'm the creator of the Made for Middle School curriculum, which teaches kids the silent skills they need to succeed in school and life.
Yes.
And we're here to get nerdy with you.
It's my favorite thing to do on a Saturday morning.
Right? It's our favorite thing to do any time of the day, though. Let's be real, Brittany.
It is. It really is. This is like a nerd-free judgment zone right here.
Absolutely.
It's good nerdy.
The way we're going to format today's discussion is we're going to start off with our 2-minute summaries, which, sometimes they go well, sometimes they don't go as well, but we commit to talking for those 2 minutes regardless of what happens. And then we're going to dive into the book, what we've learned, what our takeaways are, some points we want to discuss. And then we're going to end by talking about some action tips for teachers and or parents and caregivers. So You did the first summary for chapter 1. I feel like it's only fair if I do the first summary for chapter 2.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
You got that timer ready for me, Britt?
Yep. Hold on. Nope. Gotta use my iPad. Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, this is like not scripted. I just go through the book and hope for the best. All right. On your mark. Get set. Go. In chapter 2 of Punished by Rewards is a Right to Reward, Alfie Kohn really talks about the ethics of rewards and gives us some history and some context for why rewards really are not that ethical. So he starts off by talking about the fear of not having consequences and how rewards really come out of a sense of control. He also talks about like what is fairness in and of itself, right? And who gets to decide what's fair and what's not. And he really highlights some interesting facets of like, okay, is this fair? Well, is this fair? Is this fair? And one of the ways he does that is by thinking about what constitutes deservingness. So like if you work really hard but you fail, do you still deserve a reward? And he also talks about how people seem to feel so uneasy if someone does not, quote unquote, get what they deserve, especially children. Like if a child has a behavior and you don't punish or give a like immediate consequence, and this be kind of adding on, it's almost like you're viewed as permissive when that's not necessarily the case. And then he dives in to looking at fairness in the economy and in the grand scheme of things, and how rewards can really come across as being condescending. And to really put yourself in the shoes of the child and think, how would I feel if my boss did what I'm doing to these children? And then he also connects rewards to animals and highlights how a lot of the studies that influence behaviorism come from studies on animals, and how ethical is it to base our treatment of children based on studies done on rats. And finally, he ends by highlighting things people might say in retaliation to his argument and completely shuts them down.
Woo!
Boom. That's
I love
it. Thank you.
2 minutes.
Good.
That was excellent.
All right. And now, my friend, it's your turn to wow us.
Okay, so a 2-minute summary of Alfie Kohn's chapter 2. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm on Skinnerbox. Hold on just a second. All right. Is it right to reward? Okay.
Let me know when you're ready.
All right. Let's do it.
Ready, set, go.
All right. So chapter 2, Alfie Kohn, is it right to reward? He goes over the moralistic implications for rewarding and how rewards became something in society that we can't question. Instead, it's just something that we have to defend. He said that this use of rewards in the classroom became a practice that people feel is natural because of our cultural belief that people get what they deserve. So if you are a person that does what society deems as good or appropriate, you should be rewarded. And if you do something that society deems as abnormal or inappropriate, you should be punished, or that rewards should be withheld from you. He then goes to talk about the moral implications of this system, how this system is not unfair, how this system has underlying issues because of who deems what is appropriate, what is inappropriate. He talks about how we should be looking more at the human side of interactions and less of the market, capitalistic, economical side of human interactions.
10 seconds.
When we, and then that we have to look at who is benefiting from the rewards, and that impacts the buy-in.
All
Whoa,
right.
man, I feel like, okay.
It's cool too doing the summary because I feel like we both pull different things out of it.
Yeah.
And it's fun hearing the difference. So
Absolutely.
after our summaries, I think we should talk about how ethical we think rewards actually are. And it's funny because when I was in grad school, I actually took an ethics class. And the ethics class was just kind of like living in one giant headache for 4 months because once you think you understand something, it just gets deeper and deeper. And it was very complex. I remember at the end, I wrote a 10-page paper and I was like, damn, that is a good paper. I have no idea what I just said, but I know it is a really good paper.
Yeah.
All about looking at the ethics of charter schools and about what they stand for and how they work in our society. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on how ethical you feel like rewards actually are, but also on the same token, what kind of rewards you've used in your history with them. Because even though we might be like, oh yeah, this is not ethical, we've both done it. So let's hear about your story with rewards, Britt.
Okay. So whether I think rewards are ethical or how I feel about rewards, and my microphone, you can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Just fine. I don't even think my microphone is hooked up, so I'm just going to take it off. Okay. So how I feel about rewards is I am always trying to get my students to learn the most that they can learn in my class. I am trying to make sure that every student succeeds. The question of ethics to me is, now that I know the research behind it, is it ethical to use when I know it's ineffective? It's also dehumanizing. It takes control and autonomy away from the student. So treating students like lab animals or like pets, I would have to say that my definitive statement would be no, they are not ethical. Reward systems are not ethical. And have I used them in the past? I have. And I still do, which is insane because you can consider saying good job as a reward. That is, the positive interaction that is used to motivate a behavior to happen again. So I'm embedded in the culture of rewards, and it's really hard to break away from. So I still use them. I still find myself saying good job. I had a system in place when I first started teaching. It was modeled after Class Dojo. It was point-based. I have since then moved to a group point system. And this point system, students who meet the school-wide expectations, they earn points, or they contribute to earning a point for their class. So half of the students need to demonstrate safe, responsible, respectful behavior in order to earn a Class Dojo point. Mind you, this has nothing to do with Class Dojo anymore. I just kept the name.
Yep, love it.
And when half of them earn safe, responsible, respectful in my class, they earn a class dojo point for their class, and they need 5 or 10 class dojo points to have a party. This would be the major reward system I use in my classroom.
And do you feel like it works?
Yes, I do. But here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
The more I learn, the more I'm questioning, is it working or am I working?
Mm.
You know, like am I just setting up the students to have an environment where they feel comfortable being safe, responsible, respectful? Am I establishing relationships where I can, mediate behavior and I don't need to use the reward system, which I'm actually running a pilot starting
Ooh.
in a week for one classroom because I teach art. So I see every class in the building. For one classroom, I am getting rid of the class dojo party points, and I am making it so that no matter what happens, everybody will earn the party. It doesn't matter. You don't earn it. It just is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also not going to be using like our Panther Paws, which is the school commerce. And I'm going to shy away from saying, instead of saying good job, if I give feedback, it's going to be completely useful. And then focusing on making sure every student's need is met to to my capability of
How does it
making.
make you feel thinking about doing that? Are you like, oh, that feels a bit daunting? Or are you excited and ready for it?
Yeah, I'm excited and ready for it. I think I'm doing it with one of my most difficult classrooms. And I think that that classroom is as difficult as it is it's because they lack autonomy and
Mhm.
feelings of competency. And I think reward systems undermine those feelings of autonomy they do. I don't think they do undermine feelings of autonomy and competency. So I'm really excited to see how this class does with getting rid of PBIS.
And it's going to be really interesting. You have to reflect on that in the podcast with us.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I also think it's interesting, too, how autonomy is something in classroom management that I don't think we ever really talked about. Like, I rarely hear people talking about autonomy, but
Yeah.
think about a job that you've hated. Chances
Mm.
are you were being micromanaged or you had no
Mhm.
autonomy.
Right.
And then you probably didn't bring your best to the job because you're like, what does it matter? I'm just a number. Yet we
Right.
do that in our classrooms. And this is not
And
like
expect them to learn.
or anything.
Right.
No.
Like, yeah, it baffles me, but I guess that's it. That could be its own podcast. So back to the
Right?
chapter. Back to
It
the chapter.
baffles me. That's the name of the next one we do.
Baffles me. Oh, an entire workshop. Like,
For real. Actually, we could do that. For those of you who are not familiar with it yet, Brittany and I are going to be co-hosting a workshop on Thursday that you can come to January 18th. So it'll be at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it'll be recorded looking at how we can support our students consciously, especially our neurodivergent students in the classroom.
yes, focusing on that need instead of the behavior. We're solving needs here.
Exactly. So if you want to come to that, DM us. We can send you the link, message us on social media. But now I want to tell you about my history with reward systems because it has been a complicated journey. And now I'm at the point where I don't use extrinsic reward systems in my classroom, and I haven't this is my second year nixing them. So when I first started, though, complete opposite. I had these little pom-pom cups for my students. And mind you, I taught fourth grade at this point. I was teaching fourth grade, and for each cluster of desks, the kids had a pom-pom cup. And I would just put pom-poms in for things I deemed was good. And then once their cup filled, we would pour it into a whole class cup. And then when the whole class cup filled, we would have a whole class reward. That was what I did. And I also had this second thing called VIP, where kids would wear a lanyard. I would just pick one kid at the end of the day who I thought exhibited the kind of behaviors we want to see. And then the next day, they would get to wear our VIP lanyard. And it was a lot of effort doing all of that. The kids were definitely bought in. My administration loved it. I was exhausted and anxious every day, and every year I have done rewards like this. I feel like I have been. But then the following year, I moved up to middle school, and I started to stop doing the pom-pom cups, and I eased into more of like a grid where the kids would color in these boxes in a grid for meeting our classroom expectations. And once our grid was entirely colored in, they would get a whole class reward. And then when I moved up to Boston, I had that grid still, but I kind of wanted to start moving away from it because that's when I began my conscious classroom management journey. And I was like, oh, I have some icky feelings about this, but like, I don't know the school, I don't know how the kids' behaviors are, and it scares me not feeling like I have control. And so I kept using it. And our school also has this point system in an app where kids receive points or they could have lost points for doing certain things. And at the end of the week, they need X amount of points to go to our Fun Friday. And if they don't have that many points, they go to a reflection time, which is sitting in the cafeteria and filling out a worksheet. And I don't know about you, but I feel like those reflection worksheets are so pointless. I feel like nobody actually reflects with them. And so I was like, oh, I don't like this either. And so before last year started, I knew I was giving a challenging class, and I'm putting air quotes around that, challenging class. And I was like, well, if there is any a year to try out no extrinsic rewards and really see if I can run a classroom just based on intrinsic motivation and meeting needs, this is the year. And so I did. And I started I created a system over the summer called Levels, which basically is getting kids to want to enjoy their time in school. And you start off by having them envision what school could be like for them, what it feels like when you walk into the classroom, what things you want to be able to do, how you want to be treated, how you want to treat other people. And then I go from that to, okay, we can have that, but you have to kind of work your way up to that. So you start off with level 1. And level 1 is controversially, in my opinion, called compliance behaviors. And I called it that intentionally, though, because that's what school systems oftentimes want.
Yeah.
But the way I structure compliance is a two-way street, which I don't think most school systems do. So my compliancy is we come in ready to learn. We treat everything with respect, and we leave our classroom ready. And it's a two-way street. So if I am not doing it, I tell the students, call me out on the spot. If I'm speaking to you in a tone that you're like, nope, I don't like that, interrupt class and say, I don't like your tone with me. And I'll be like, okay, I need to work on that. So it's a two-way street. And I honestly feel like it's mostly for me as the teacher to make sure I'm checking in on the students and how we're doing. So after we master those things 21 times, and that becomes a habit, then we move up to cooperation. So this is where I teach them how to advocate for themselves. So if you are mad at me, here's how you handle that appropriately. If you are upset with somebody in the class, here's how you handle that appropriately. It's where we practice showing empathy. And then after we do that 21 times and that becomes habitual, we don't track anything because these things are just habits. And then throughout the process, we talk about the difference between a mistake versus a choice to harm. And I tell the kids, like, if you make a mistake, it's not a big deal. Like, I make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Own it and then fix it. And so, for example, if they come into the classroom, I teach middle school. So if they come into the classroom like, Colby, jump into the door frame, they're like, I should not have done that. And then they go out, they literally re-enter my classroom, meeting the expectation. No big deal. But if every single day they enter the classroom saying, Colby, and jumping through the door frame, then we're going to talk about it because then it's not a mistake. Like you're choosing to enter class in a way that's going to distract your classmates from their work. So then we talk about it and I help them meet their need. If that means if they just feel really hyped up coming to my class, that's fine. We can have them like chill in the hall with me for a second. Like I've had kids do jumping jacks before class. I've done like up high, down low, in the middle, too slow. I've given them pep talks. Like they've taken a minute just to get themselves situated and then start the class. It just depends on the kid. So that's what I do now. And my school still has the application system. But now it's if kids have 7 points in our app, they miss out on their Fun Friday time. And I don't really use it. It just kind of sits on my phone. And the kids also know, they're like, oh yeah, she doesn't really use the app. I'll put in positive things, but also like I would rather just message a caregiver and say like, this kid did this great thing today. And I wanted to share that with you. It warmed my heart. So I've kind of eased out of using that. Yeah. And truthfully, I feel like my administration doesn't mind. I feel like if they can see your classroom run smoothly, they don't really care as much if you're using the whole class system or not, you know? And I've been told multiple times that my classroom is one of the smoothest running ones in the entire building. So they don't mind that I'm not doing that. And I am happy with that. Yeah. And it's a lot easier to manage too, I found. And the kids like it more. Like the kids tell me they love being in my classroom and they just feel peaceful. And that's one of the greatest things to hear as a teacher, you know, that your kids just love being there and they feel peaceful and happy and joyful. That's what I strive for. And it's nice because using the rewards and like using the PBIS systems and the tickets and the tokens and everything, it felt for me, maybe for you too. Did you ever feel like you were a banker of sorts and like you couldn't actually be fair? Like kid would do something and you'd be like, oh, well, maybe I should give you something. I don't know. And then kids would know this too and be like, well, so-and-so did this, but I did this. So shouldn't I get this too? And it just felt like you were the fairness police, but also running Bank of America.
Right. And the fairness, the idea of fairness relies on my perspective, my, you know, my beliefs, what I witnessed. Like it became such this, okay, well, I didn't see this. I don't know if they did this. I don't know how I believe in this. Or if I'm irritated, I'm like, no, you're not getting anything. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like your mood affects a lot, right?
Yeah. It's so subjective. And that's why it's so ineffective. Because
go ahead.
Oh, well, if you're going, this system rests on the need for it to be run like a lab. This behavioral manipulation, you can't have any subjectivity. So if you are bringing in teachers and their moods and their beliefs and their culture and their perspectives, like it makes the entire system, the entire behavioral manipulation system null. It's ineffective.
But you also like have all of these kids bringing in their own ideas too. Like we're all people. That's why autonomy is so important and agency and learning how to operate in those social constructs that we have, you know? I also thought that there's a quote that was really relevant to what we were just talking about like what constitutes deservingness of rewards and about like what should we actually reward. And this is from page 21. It says, do we reward on the basis of how much effort is expended? So like work hard, get more goodies. What if the result of hard work is failure? Does it make more sense then to reward on the basis of success, like do well, get more goodies, but do well by whose standards and who's responsible for the success? Excellence is often the product of cooperation, and even individual achievement is typically built on the work of other people's earlier efforts. So who deserves the reward when lots of people have had a hand in the performance? And it's just such a mess. It's such a mess. And then to hear further on in the chapter too, like what the ideology is if it's not working. Do you remember that quote where it talked about like eventually someone will just give up? if you like ignore the need of what's going on.
Right.
It talks
and then you get
about
learned helplessness.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And that's an even bigger psychological behavior to try to work through.
It's such a thing. And so on the quote I was talking about was from page 27. So this is a pioneer of like PBIS plans talking about kids who are gaming in quotes the system and like not following the rewards that you have or not being super compliant with it. And it says on page 27, a pioneer of such plans writes that children need to be reminded frequently that they are working for reinforcers, and that a teacher must always keep in mind that the teacher is the manager of the classroom. If a child is sneaky enough, that word sneaky enough to save up tokens rather than feeling driven to keep earning new ones, we are warned that the child and not the teacher is in control of her behavior. A prospect evidently regarded as appalling on its face. Any complaints from children who think the administration of the rewards is unfair can be easily handled by ignoring or redirecting. If such concerns are simply not reinforced, they will extinguish.
Yeah.
And that one hit me like I drew a broken heart next to it because I remember a few years back being so proud of my ability to smush behaviors.
Yeah.
And I would legit call it smush. And I'd be like, oh no, I can smush that. And having people be like, yeah, you can, like encouraging.
Yeah.
Now I can meet the need of somebody who's struggling and needs my help.
Right.
And I don't think that's uncommon either.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you look at Black authors, Black parent activist groups, people like Goldie Hammond, Goldie Muhammad, Zaretta Hammond, they are all talking about, or a lot of them are talking about, the fact that school crushes the Black child's spirit. And that's exactly how we're doing that. We're not meeting needs. We're not fulfilling senses of belonging. Don't even get me started about, cultural connection.
This is a whole, we could dive so deep into this, Britt. This is the stuff that
right. But what does rewarding do towards that? Towards punishing the Black child or punishing, people of color, when 99% of the teachers and people in power who get to determine what's appropriate are from Eurocentric, Western-minded ideological cultures.
It's a huge thing. And being able to like recognize in yourself, like, oh, why am I doing this? And question yourself and question your own equity and take that read. And there's something else I was going to say too. I'm losing it now. Oh, crap. It's gone now. It's gone. But this is a huge topic.
Yeah.
And these kids are out of control. That's another book I'm reading right now that's diving into all of that. And it's just mind-boggling. I recommend, it's a good read, but it's a read that's going to piss you off. So like go into it accordingly.
Perfect.
Yeah, we love that.
Yeah. So it's these kids are out of control.
Yeah. It's a good one, and it just highlights how screwed up schooling and discipline in schools is, and how it's harming thousands of children. Hundreds of thousands of children.
We're seeing the effects of that as our culture slowly breaks down.
Yes.
I mean, you think about it, like you have like raised levels of violence. You have school shootings, mass shootings. Like it's those behaviors stem from childhood.
Exactly. So
and like
on that note, I feel like when we think about taking away rewards, people fear like, oh, the chaos that will ensue.
Yeah,
So I say we travel to that dystopian quote for a minute, okay?
Where
And
rewards don't exist?
yeah, where rewards don't exist. Like if
Okay.
kids go to school and they never experience a reward system, what do you think it would look like? Because for me, I think that we use rewards incentives. And to be fair, I don't think people go into it with this nature in mind necessarily. But I feel like we use rewards incentives to not meet kids' needs and to give us a way to have like a smooth running class without meeting needs because we don't have the support in order to do so in schools.
Right. That's, I think, the biggest point there is that every teacher goes in to the profession with the intention of helping, with, trying to motivate learners. I don't think any teacher goes into the profession to, create harm. And we move towards these PBIS, incentive-based programs, reward systems, even systems of punishment, because they're easy. Because,
Are they?
being
How easy are they? Like counting all of the tickets, like being mindful of all the comments you have to say, tracking everything like that. I feel like they sound easy in theory. And it sounds easier than needing to manage your own emotions to handle a kid in crisis.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that's scary for people, when you have to tackle your own emotions and how you're feeling, people are like, nope, I don't want it.
Right.
I would much rather just yell and tell somebody no than be like, okay, I feel triggered by this, but I'm the adult. So I have to calm myself down before I meet the kid's need.
Do you remember the quote from last chapter that I read at the end, that it's easier, it requires no talent, no creative thinking.
Like the brave teacher, right?
Yeah, to tell somebody good job.
I have it. Okay. This is from page 16 in chapter 1. In the middle of a lecture on behaviorism a few years ago in Idaho, one teacher in the audience blurted out, "But stickers are so easy." This is absolutely true. If she finds herself irritated that children in her class are talking, it takes courage and thought to consider whether it is really reasonable to expect them to sit quietly for so long, or to ask herself whether the problem might be her own discomfort with noise. It takes effort and patience to explain respectfully to 6-year-olds the reason for her request. It takes talent and time to help them develop the skill of self-control and the commitment to behave responsibly. But it takes no courage, no thought, no effort, no patience, no talent, and no time to announce, keep quiet, and here's what you'll get.
Yeah. And that's where I was coming from, that it's easier to give a sticker than it is to do some inner work, some unlearning, and to be a detective, figure out the student's need, and then put, scaffolds and skill building in place to meet those needs. With the accessibility of PBIS, the ease of use in the classroom.
Yep.
Like teachers are just going to turn to that. And then you have on top of that, they're being encouraged, motivated, or like threatened if they're not doing it. So especially new teachers. So if I were to imagine a dystopian, like there's no reward system.
Dystopian in quotes. But yeah.
Actually, we should say utopia.
Okay.
It would be a utopia. It would be where universal supports are put in place. Every teacher knows just universally what they can do to make sure that everybody has access to the learning. So color coding using visuals, being in close relation or having a close relationship with the students. So knowing their needs because you're talking to them, because you know them.
But I also think that the kids will learn how to recognize needs in other people. Like, have you seen those videos of kids who have been raised in more of like a conscious style and they see someone upset and they're like, "Hi, what do you need? How can I help you?"
Yeah.
They're not like, "Stop crying, you baby."
Right, right. Yeah, it's really interesting because I've done a lot of research when it comes to Indigenous schools and Indigenous communities, which is where restorative practice comes from. And their community, their schools, their culture's built on that, and I think that the more that we become the Western culture and civilization encroaches upon Indigenous cultures and civilizations, we become more, where we're monetizing human interaction. Like, oh, you do this for me, I'm going to reward you. Thank you. You did this for me. Like, here's a sticker. Like, thank you for being quiet. Oh, that made me think of a quote I kind of want to talk about like who benefits. Where are we on that?
Yeah. And that's the thing too. So like how condescending rewarding can be and who the rewards actually serve. So if you read chapter 2, you saw that a lot of the research for behaviorism and doing these systems comes from research on rodents. And so this system proliferating schools across the nation, training behaviors literally comes from training animals. But people aren't questioning that, it's just widely accepted. And if you're doing something different, like you're going against the grain. So the text talked about considering who the rewards that you're implementing actually serves, like who it's truly helping. Did you find the excerpt that you wanted to reference for that, Britt?
Right here. So rewards are typically justified as being in the interests of the individuals receiving them. And this is on page 29. Let me restart. Rewards are typically justified as being in the interests of the individuals receiving them. We claim to reinforce people to teach them things that they need to be taught. But one writer, after ticking off the specific objectives of behavior modification programs, asks, in whose interest is it for a prisoner, a student, or a patient to be less complaining, more attentive, submissive, and willing to work? Who really benefits when a child quiets down and sits still?
Exactly. And that's what Kohn was hitting back at toward the end of the chapter, thinking about, okay, if you're doing a reward system, or if you think about what you're currently doing, who is it truly serving? You have to get down to the root of it.
Yeah.
Like, granted, you might say, oh, well, my system is benefiting kids and it's serving kids because they get to work in a quiet environment. How productive are you in a PD where you have to be quiet for 7 hours?
Right. Like, is quiet productive?
Yeah. And then does that look the same for everybody? You have to think about that. And also, if you're put in those shoes, and they gave an example earlier in the chapter too, of like your boss doing merit pay.
Yes.
Or if your principal went around checking in with you every 10 minutes, be like, oh, I love how you're doing this, or oh, you didn't do this. So if you can do this, and I'll give you this.
Yeah. Do you want me to read the quote?
Yeah.
Few school principals hand out more supplies. This is on page 22. Few school principals hand out more supplies to the teachers who stayed up longer the night before to finish a lesson plan. Rather, they look at the size and requirements of each class. Few parents decide how much dinner to serve to each of their children on the basis of who did more for the household that day. Few makers, and moral theorists struggling with the knotty question of how to distribute scarce healthcare resources automatically assume that the most productive contributors to society, whatever that means, should get the most care.
And if they did, people would be up in arms.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're not in schools. I mean, we are a little bit, but
yeah,
it's not normal to have backlash when those things are done.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that it becomes this, I don't know, when I was talking about the economical side of behavior management, when we're using reward systems, like it becomes this, quick
Pro quo.
Yeah. And with it's not, it's not really in the benefit of the child, because we're asking them to sit still and sit quiet, even though that's been proven to be an environment where people can't think creatively, problem solve. Everybody has to be comfortable, and freedom of expression is very important.
Yeah.
So going back to kind of like that ethic question that we were talking at the beginning about, like, is it ethical to give out rewards based on productivity, on what, people decide as, or that you decide as meeting your, expectations, or what's the word that we would reward behavior for, like those behaviors that we want to see in the classroom. You get what I feel like I kind of like.
Yeah, I'm following. And I also think it's important too to reflect on productivity in general. Like I'm thinking math, for example, like how we teach kids math and they have to do this whole system and structure, but the kid might get to the answer without needing to do that. Who would you consider more productive? The kid who is able to complete those 10 problems quickly and then get through all of that work, or the kid who's able to figure out the answer and complete those 10 problems quickly without showing all of the work the teacher's asking for.
Right.
There's so much that goes into it because just the human experience in and of itself is so varied. Yeah. And the assets that we all bring into life are so variable. And that's a good thing. That's what we need.
Yeah.
We have to recognize that.
That's
and
strange.
I think we should start to try to wind down a little bit and talk about what kind of rewards we think are in and out now. Going into 2024, starting off this year, what would we say is completely out? Or we say, okay, maybe this could work a little bit until we're like maybe even able to ease our way out. People want to.
Okay. So the reward systems that I think are totally out would be like Class Dojo, especially when the feedback is vague. Saying things like "good job," anything that could be considered patronizing. I would even say like stickers on work. Who gets to determine whether someone who got all of the answers on a spelling test right deserved the sticker more than the kid that got 70% right but studied all night. Which goes back to your effort.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, in terms of stickers, I feel like you can still use like these traditional reward things, but just for fun. Like stickers, if you have a paper of like 10 things you need kids to do, like sticker your top 3 ones that you want to do. Or like use these stickers in your book to mark quotes that stood out to you.
Oh, so you're saying using stickers as like an organization or administrative.
Yeah. Or like for novelty. If it excites them, why not? Or like using stamps in your book, especially like teaching English and having kids dive into a text and close, read, and analyze.
Right.
Like bring a little bit of novelty to it. Have different color highlighters for fun, but not to be earned.
Right. Well, that's just a good way to motivate students to learn how they learn,
Hmm.
to learn how to organize, to learn how to keep things visually separated so you're categorizing.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, we shouldn't be giving tools for accessibility as rewards. Like,
Yeah, and I feel like the concepts of motivation, like
mhm,
extrinsic, intrinsic, there
mhm.
are things that are extrinsically motivating. Like in my classroom, I have these two really comfy bowl chairs. And
Yeah,
like sitting in a
yeah.
bowl chair and doing your work there, that's extrinsically motivating because it's something you're doing on the outside, right?
Mhm.
Um, I don't tell kids like, oh, you're behaving, so you can go sit over there. It's
Yeah.
more like, no, whoever asks the weekly
Mhm,
worker to use the chair, the weekly worker will say, yeah, and then you can sit there.
mhm.
And we just ask because there's two chairs and there's 20 plus kids in the room. So they have to vary who's sitting in there. So everybody has a turn.
Right. So it's not
No, but
even would you consider that to be an extrinsic reward or just, like, a comfortable option for community?
no, but we don't start off with access to them because
Mm,
the thing is, I don't feel like I'm rewarding kids by giving them this chair to sit in, but I need to be able to trust that they can work in an alternative environment,
mm.
if that makes sense. So, like, if
Yeah.
I have an area that's a bit harder for me to see or monitor,
Mhm,
it's hard for me to check in and make sure they're understanding things.
mhm,
So I can't trust that they're able to work there or like be somewhere like in the hallway where I can't see. Like I
mhm.
can't send you out there till I can trust you to be there. I'm
Yeah,
not saying like if you do this, you'll get this,
right.
or I need to give you 10 tickets in order to do this. It's more like,
Mhm.
okay, are you good right here? If you're good, then I'm good.
Yeah.
If that
But
makes sense.
you need to be able to determine, like, the level of support the child needs before you can let them work independently. And
Yeah.
that's gonna vary on task, and that's gonna vary on, sometimes it varies on, like, days and
Yeah,
moods
exactly.
too, like,
And that's
so
fine as well.
yeah.
I feel like I understand it very clearly in my mind.
Mhm.
I feel like expressing it or sometimes to
I know.
outsiders, it might not seem as clear.
Mhm,
But I think it comes down to like the root for why you're doing things as well. So
mhm.
I'm not putting these chairs or like I guess the chairs would be a good example right now. I'm not putting them in the room as a way to control kids. I'm
Right.
not saying like, "Oh, if you do this, then we can use these chairs." You
Well,
know?
we also have to look at, like, boundaries,
Mhm.
versus, like, punishments or boundaries versus control. That's what we should say.
Yeah.
Like, holding our boundaries.
That's another workshop in of itself right
I
there,
know,
boundaries
I
versus
know.
control.
Yeah, boundaries versus control. So, can we end on this? Um, maybe it takes me so long to find.
Well, while you're
Give me
looking,
a
I
narrow
also would
word, maybe.
say something
Yeah.
that's in 2024 would be to meet kids' needs,
Ooh, yeah.
and to recognize that, and also meet your own. I feel like people don't really look out for us as teachers in the classroom, but you gotta meet your own needs too.
Right.
Um, and then I also wanted us to end with an action tip for teachers and caregivers.
Okay.
So, my
Mm.
action tip for teachers and caregivers would be to think about if you have rewards and you're trying to move away, why you have your rewards. So, who is it truly serving? And put yourself in the kid's shoes and think about how you would feel. If it feels in the slightest bit condescending, you probably shouldn't be doing it. Or if it feels patronizing, if you were to think that if your principal did this to you, if it would feel patronizing, you probably shouldn't do it. And then start taking those courageous steps to move in the opposite direction. And I don't know about you, Brett, I feel like you would say yes to this. But if
Yes.
somebody's considering doing that and they're like, hey, I would like to do this, I just don't know where to start, I'd be more
Mhm.
than happy to like receive a DM from you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? Or comment in one of our videos. We'll get back to you eventually, or if we miss it, just keep commenting and we'll get it. But these are important conversations to have. And like obviously Brittany and I are hosting this whole book club experience thing.
Yeah.
Like we're in your corner and we're here to help you do it because we know it's not easy and it's going against the grain.
Yes. And
so
yeah, we want to see other teachers succeed. That's the whole point of why we're doing this, because it's such an important profession and there's so much joy to be gotten from the classroom when you have the, you know, the tools and the skills.
Absolutely.
So I would say, now that I found where I was looking, if anybody doesn't know, I have severe ADHD. Like, I'm not being cute. I mean, I have severe ADHD. Okay. So now I got it. So the quote I was talking about before was, but to say that children need structure or guidance is very different from saying they have to be controlled. Structure and guidance does not equal control. They're different. Then to say, move on to control breeds the need for more control, which then is used to justify the use of control. So let this feed into my final thought. We need to be creating environments, creating learning spaces that set students up for success by meeting needs, by building relationships. None of that can happen when we're more conscious and we're emphasizing control. We have to reframe our thinking.
Yeah, and you have to do that in your brain, and you have to like be super mindful of that. You know, you can't just say it. You gotta actually do the thing and be like, "Oh, I really want to do this, but I really shouldn't do this right now. I got to do this instead."
Yeah, I really like that. You got to do that in your brain.
That's our next T-shirt. No. We should make a list of this. You got to do it in your brain.
Do it in your brain. That's where we got it. That's where we're gonna start. Yeah, like it's a shift in mindset, which I think is why we chose to read this book. Because my mindset when I'm in the classroom has shifted completely. Like when I have students, I just had a student who was really acting out and not acting out, they just weren't focused. And between this and the inclusive classroom book I'm reading, I ended up taking the student aside and I was like, what do you need? Like, what do you need to be motivated and to work independently? Like, how can we do this? Because right now you're just talking to everybody. So that means that there's something you're not accessing to be successful.
Yeah. And how'd that conversation go?
Huh?
They told you? Like they told you what they did?
Yeah.
He wants to do that, right?
Like he's like, I was so successful at the pottery wheel last year. I'm like, oh my God. And I wasn't opening up the pottery wheel because it's a mess. Like, so that's on me. I didn't want to have to deal with it. But I'm like, all right.
Did you tell them that too? And say like, hey, this is why I haven't done it because it's a mess. Do you think
every time he brings it up. Like, I'm like,
did you ask if he would help you clean it up afterwards though? You'd be like, this is what you have to do. Like, will you be involved in the cleanup process? And the kid's like, yeah.
No, they're expected to clean up. But I know that they're kids. Like, this is an 11-year-old, right? Like, so they're cleaning up. They're even with the best of their ability is not going to be cleaning up everything that needs to be cleaned up when it comes to
and
I don't think about like the same.
So that's the thing too, though, because this past week in my classroom, my dismissal time was just a bit annoying. And this is actually a post I wanted to do. Like, I don't fight all the battles. Like, we have 5-10 minutes with the kids back with me in their homeroom at the end of the day after I don't see them for a while. Kids are in and out of my classroom all day in the middle school. Like, I'm not trying to have like 20 plus 12-year-olds sit silently. I don't really do that anyways. But I do want them to like leave the room clean and orderly. And they just chill quiet enough to hear. Our intercom is legit a whisper. We have to be like this to hear the intercom. So if you're having a conversation like this, we're too loud to hear the intercom. So I need to be able to hear the intercom, and I need the room clean. And having the room left clean, that was driving me crazy this past week. And so I told the kids, like, hey, I need the room clean. And then the next day, there were a handful of kids who were cleaning it, but some people weren't. And I was like, okay, I need to be clear about what they need to have clean. And so the next day I said, okay, I don't think I was clear enough when I told you what clean looks like for me. So that means that all of the Chromebooks are plugged in. That means that the books in the library are standing up like this. That means there are no papers on the counter, or if you see papers, they're grouped together like this. Like I wrote out what clean looks like, and then yesterday they left it clean.
Yeah, because they were able to meet your expectations. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't like, why did you do this? Or how could they disrespect me like that? Because I said I wanted it clean. It's more like, okay, I said, like I wrote, leave the room clean. Because I also project the expectations. Leave the room clean. That may not have been clear enough. So this is what I mean by it.
Yep.
And they looked at the board and they're like, oh, we have to do this. And they were referencing it. And sometimes kids need more support in doing that because they can't hold all those concepts in their brains like you and I can as grown adults.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe we can end on that too. You know, to go into things really mindful about why you're doing them, and also recognizing that we got to meet needs and not to be alarmed or take it personally if what we just didn't meet the need. Maybe they need something else.
Yes, 100%.
You know,
so next week we are going to be next week is our workshop. If you're interested in the workshop, feel free to message me or Ashlyn. We will be hosting it the 18th at 5:30 or 5. It's all on conscious classroom management and neurodivergency. And we're going to send out the date for the next book club because we might have an issue with the calendar. So, you want to do send off?
Yeah, let's do our send off. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. We've loved just chatting with you. And until next time, we hope that this podcast was igniting, remoralizing, and re-energizing. And we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye. And before we hang up on Instagram now, I told people we could go through and react because I was trying to go in and like add different discussion points while we were recording.
Okay.
So we can go through and look and react to some of those right now, just so it didn't break the flow of what we were recording. All right. So at one point, Tina commented after we were talking about, does your current classroom management system work? Tina commented, isn't that still a reward system? Isn't it punitive for the students that they're behaving respectful and responsible and no points are earned? I'm wondering if that's when you were talking about like the fake dojo thing that you do. And yeah, I think Brittany's very mindful of like, this is still a reward system. You want to
100%. Yeah. So, and that's why I'm piloting the class that isn't going to use it. I am just now entering the philosophy that we shouldn't be using rewards. So when I first started reading this book, I was, what's the word? I didn't quite believe everything Alfie was talking about. So I
didn't believe what Alfie was talking about when you first started reading?
When I first started studying Alfie Kohn.
Oh, you didn't believe it.
I didn't believe in that rewards were ineffective.
Wait, you didn't believe that rewards were so you believe rewards were effective?
I didn't believe. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I didn't believe rewards were effective. So there were a lot of things that would be brought up in regards to Alfie Kohn's philosophy that I would have disagreed with. And that was like 3-4 months ago. even two. We're on the third week of the book club. So 3 weeks ago that we started it, and I probably started reading the book 2-3 weeks before that, so 6 weeks. And through reading this and the examples, I'm becoming more of a believer. And now I am phasing out my classrooms from the reward system.
Yeah,
Which is
it's a
hard.
journey. I feel like, you got to phase out and figure it out how it looks like for you and your school and for yourself, because schools also give you constraints you have to operate in.
100%. And I had to talk when I was talking about doing the pilot for the classroom. One of my most difficult classes, I'm taking away the reward system. Everything that's PBIS in the school is no longer going to exist in my classroom for them. And
I'm so excited to hear about that. Keep going.
So and I had to go to my principal and, present that.
And that's nerve-wracking in and of itself for teachers, right? Like, this is a thing that we're doing.
So I'm not going to lie. I originally went to the social worker and I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. And he's like, oh, dude, you should talk to the principal. Okay, so here's the thing. I've been at my building for 10 years. My principal's been at the building for 1. In our building, we're very tight-knit and we're very small because we're behavioral. So the building belongs to the teachers. It belongs to us. We've been there for years. We go through principles like this. But I had to get out of that mindset because the principal we do have now is fantastic. Yeah. And when I brought it to him, it made me realize that I shouldn't just I shouldn't just include the principal as like a form of authority, but he had a lot of he wanted to hear more and he had good points and he had good questions and it helped me.
We should invite him onto the book club sometime.
Oh my gosh. He'd be a hoot and a holler. He's great. So I proposed it and now I'm going to do it. And Tina, I hope that answered your question.
I think so. And then Oats 9 said, yes, parties are about celebrating. They're not earned. And then later they said this, and I feel like Oats 9, we got to make some t-shirts with you too. Listen to what they said. We have the privilege of compelling students, not controlling them.
Yes.
I love that.
Wow. And the fact that it's a privilege.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yes, it is. I learned so much.
9. Snaps for you. And then they said, in truth, I seek to avoid, they put in quotes, in truth, I seek to avoid the words behavior management. Who wants to be managed? Yeah, that too. I've been thinking about that, even just how I post things in catalog, because it's difficult on social media because you have to say keywords, right? Yes. To have people put you in a certain niche. So classroom management, behavior management, I honestly feel like it's classroom facilitation. But if I type classroom facilitator, people are going to be like, what the heck is that? Right. And Instagram's going to be like a facilitator. What niche do we put you in the algorithm?
Right. Yeah, we have to really balance distracting and changing our language so that it's inclusive. Yeah. Because if we're distracting our readers with these terms that they really don't know, then it takes away from the message, right?
That's true. Yep.
So yeah, we're going to say behavior management for lack of better, unless we're talking it to the choir, then we could change. We could be like, instead of behavior management, we could be just use inclusivity.
Yeah, that's true. And then Oates later said, Kohn's note that rewards are a form of punishment is do true. I think he meant to say so true. And then Tina said reflection sheets are garbage, said as a mom of 6, ages 11 through 25. I feel like we agree with you there, Tina. The reflection sheets, they're just not it. Imagine if you're, the thing that gets me is, imagine if your contemporary said this to you. If you got into an argument with your significant other and they said, well, you pissed me off, so go fill out this reflection sheet. What? The outrage that would run through my body.
Okay, so I can say that reflection sheets to me are like journaling. Like, especially if they're
Mhm.
restorative practice, structured, like how did your action make other people feel? Um, the sheet's not the problem. The fact that we're separating a student, forcing them to do a reflection activity that they're supposed to be intrinsically motivated to do in order to create any change or any reflection. Who's going to reflect on their behavior when they're like, I'm so ticked off that I have to be here
Yeah.
and not at the party? Like that's complete hogwash. Like
You're gonna
nobody's
rip it
gonna.
up.
So when you pair a reflection with that punishment, it actually like undermines everything we're trying to do. If we're really trying to get these students to reflect, we'd make the reflective opportunities, one, we'd build the skill, and two, we'd
Yeah.
include it in our classrooms to begin with, which we don't. We make
Yeah.
them a punishment.
Mhm. And it's like a punishment, fill out a reflection sheet. I feel like the way it's used.
Yeah. Like,
Um, and then AMS 31088 said,
mhm.
13th year, just changed districts. My new school is PBIS obsessed, and I've never experienced behaviors like this, and I'm barely hanging on. I think I speak on behalf of both of us, and I say I'm so sorry. That is rough. DM us and us all the messages. Oh,
Mhm.
that's a tough place to be in when your school is so much like, this is what we do. And it's like,
Yeah.
that meme of like Mickey Mouse standing in a fire cheering?
Right. Or like the
That.
sitting in the house that's on fire. Like
Yeah,
everything's fine.
exactly.
Yeah, I would say for her, she should message us.
Yeah. If you're still listening, send us a message. Either of us, both of us, we got
Yeah,
you.
right.
And
And
then, mhm,
if you have the means, sign up for the workshop on the
yeah,
18th. It's going to solve a lot of your issues.
definitely. And then Debs 27 said, or 27DR said, could stickers be used by the class to identify the part they find difficult when working out the problem? Yeah, definitely. I feel like Brittany said before, using it as an organizational tool, like that's
Mhm.
fine. It's more like when it's being used to control somebody or manipulate them, where we're like, nope, unsubscribe from that in 2024.
Yeah.
And then Sabrina said, yes to meeting kids' needs. So important to understand that those needs are as they can differ between kids. Yeah, so understand like each kid has different needs and we have to meet them differently. And then Sabrina later said, concrete instructions, love it. And that's all for the comments that we had.
Okay.
But
Are you seeing my comments? Oh, wait.
I'm not seeing your comments on, so I went to Instagram. I see no comments from people on Restream.
Okay. No, I don't either. I don't either. I don't see views either. But what is the book's name, please? Did you see? Because I
didn't
think
see
we
that
have
one.
different. Yeah, we have different comments, which stinks. But
Oh, that's so strange.
yeah. So Peanut Butter and Positivity. What book? Amini ABD. What is the book's name, please?
Oh, peanut butter and positivity. I love her.
Yeah. I was just like I was talking to her earlier. This is Alfie Kohn. Punished by Reward. Yep, and I'm putting it in the by rewards. And I'm going to end this TikTok and I'm going to take a picture of that just because I want to make sure that I send them. Yeah, on Punished by Rewards photo. No, not that. Okay.
Yeah, it's really interesting too how like our streaming is delayed based on all the stuff that we're saying. So like right now, just like a behind the curtain thing, Brittany and I are currently talking, and what you're seeing is probably a minute after what we just said.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So that was all of your.
Yeah, there's one more. Eve just said that concrete
Mm-hmm.
instructions plus visuals are key for many struggling individuals. Yeah, and one of the teachers I'm mentoring right now, we've talked
Mm-hmm.
about that. Like when you're trying to explain something to kids, And like, let's say they're all over the room and you need them in their seats. Instead of being like, hey, everybody, I know that you're full of so much energy right now. You're so excited. I love when you're excited. Can you please go back over to your seats and sit down quietly with your hands in your lap? Like, it's just so much. And if you just say, please sit down.
Yes.
It's so much clearer, you know?
Yeah. And yeah.
Yeah.
We have to end. I could go on.
We have to end. Okay. All right. So that's it for our comments, and let's end the stream, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.